Satisfy your need for happiness through your own curiosity with the Ranveer Show.
We have the Indian elections coming up.
Oh,
it's
damn.
It's a big event for India.
Let's cancel that any signing of notes question. Tell me so.
Yeah, so we have the Indian general elections coming up. Mr. Modi has been in power for 2 terms, and he has announced himself as the prime ministerial candidate from the BJP. And sometime this year, probably in the first half of this year, we will have the elections. Last time, 2019, the election results were announced in May, and the elections were held over March and April, roughly, I would say, roughly. And most likely, we're going to have the same sort of thing. Most likely, maybe a month or 2 here and there. So it's going to be announced pretty soon, I expect. We're already in January. We're going to have an announcement reasonably soon. The Election Commission will make the announcement. And then we're going to have the election campaigning cycle. It's the entire mood of the nation, the entire tempo, everything, the entire outlook, everything will change once the election campaigning cycle starts. So from where we are sitting, from how things have gone, obviously Mr. Modi has done a terrific job of taking the country forward. There's this tremendous vitality in the nation, this tremendous upsurge of self-confidence among Indians. The Indian economic growth is there for all to see. India's foreign policy is excellent. India is making inroads and excellent, robust relations with all kinds of countries, near and far. Great neighborhood policy, great extended neighborhood policy, great policy at counterbalancing the major powers in the world, and so on. So India is doing tremendously well. There is nothing I can fault the current government for. Obviously, there are certain irritants, certain problems. There is the extremely unfortunate situation in Manipur right now. Half of Manipur is under foreign occupation, whether people know it or not. And well, there's a geopolitical angle entirely there also. That is a whole different story. I'll not go into that. But yeah, that is something that's going to be resolved over time, and India will resolve it. But yeah, that's the situation. So we have all this going on. I mean, overall, it's a very positive story for India. India is doing very well. So from my perspective, I would like to see Mr. Modi come back to power. Call me whatever you want. Bhakt, Sanghi, whatever. I don't care. That's what I am. I want Mr. Modi to come back to power, and I fully expect him to indeed come back to power. And
I think even Modi haters expect him to come back to power. That's the flavor of the nation.
I mean, that's just the way it is. Yeah, he has done such a tremendous job. His overall government has done so well. I mean, look at the number of airports we've built. We have doubled the number of airports in the last 10 years. The number of new railway lines we're building up, the infrastructure we're building, the highways we are building. Look at the economic growth. We are coming up with a new semiconductor plant, a foundry in Gujarat. We are coming up with new ports in various parts of the country. There's a major transshipment port coming up in the Andamans. We are focusing on Lakshadweep for tourism. We have finally brought peace in Jammu and Kashmir. We have given the people of Ladakh their own due. I mean, overall, it's progress everywhere. If you look at the macro perspective, overall, the growth story is very, very impressive. Very few nations have been able to do such a thing in just 10 years. So
we have an identity on the world stage now.
We do. I mean, look at the last summit, the G20 summit. I mean, it was considered to be almost impossible to achieve consensus in the final declaration. And we pulled it off through tremendous diplomacy.
Generally, even when I travel in the country, just the flavor of the couple of decades that we've had, or the 1 decade that we've had till now,
yes,
is pretty pro-Modi.
Yes, I agree.
The question is who's going to succeed him. And I think we've discussed this in the past. It's between Nitin Gadkari, Yogi, and third name that come
Dr.
up.
Jaishankar, was it?
I believe so.
So let's take that up again. Look, the most important thing, the most vulnerable time for a nation is when there is a handover of power. Okay? That process, the succession process, is the most vulnerable time for a nation. There are so many, countless examples in history. If the succession goes wrong, whatever you've built up over the past 3 decades, 5 decades, whatever, it can dissipate itself. It can disappear in just a few years. Look at the USSR. Look at, so many examples. So the process of succession is critical for the political stability and continuity of a nation and everything else it has. So whoever is next has to take over from what Mr. Modi has been doing and take it further, amplify that, and go even further than what Mr. Modi has done. So Mr. Modi is laying a foundation, a base for the nation. And then we have to use that as a springboard and go forward. So we need the right leader for that. So who's the right leader is the question.
So AC, if someone held a gun to your head and said, pick one of these three.
Pick one, with a gun to my head, I would say Yogi.
Yeah?
I'd say Yogi.
I'd probably say Nitin Gadkari, but that's because I've podcasted with him and I got to know the energy. But I would say Yogi.
Look, there has to be a certain amount of unpredictability, a certain amount of X factor, a certain amount of vitality, and from a leader's perspective. And the most important factor is the direct one-to-one connection with the man and woman and child on the street. You need that charisma. A leader, it is essential for a leader to have that. Mr. Modi has that. He's probably one of the most charismatic leaders in the world. When he speaks, it resonates with each individual. He's not speaking to a crowd, he's speaking to you. That's how it feels when you watch. And very few leaders have that. I believe Mr. Yogi has that. You can be a tremendous policy maker. You can be a tremendous executor on the roads. Whatever you've been told, you do it, and you do a brilliant job at that. But you may not be able to connect with the public, and that is the vital factor in a leader's popularity and longevity. The ability to connect one-to-one with each individual out there in the public, and very few leaders have that. Mr. Modi has that. Mr. Yogi also has that. I cannot see anybody else right now who has that. See, Dr. Jaishankar is a tremendous diplomat, probably the most impactful diplomat in the world today. That is his area of expertise, diplomacy. I believe, I may be wrong, but I think perhaps if you were to ask him, would you like to be Prime Minister? He would say, no, I would like to take India's foreign policy forward because that is my core competence. And that's what I would like to leave a legacy behind.
If you enjoyed today's clip, make sure you check out these curated playlists that we've made especially for you related to the subject that was spoken about in this clip.